Welcome to the Pigskin Party Podcast, the only podcast that combines real NFL analysis with a splash of pop culture and a dash of the random. Let's get this Pigskin Party started with your hosts, Brian McFadden, Will Southard, and Tommy Yu.
Welcome, everybody, to the PPP presented by Legit Football. My name is Brian. Please, as always, subscribe, rate, and review wherever you're listening or watching this, and tell those friends so we can grow this Pigskin Party. I'm joined, as always, by my co-hosts, Big Willie Southard and Tommy Yu. Guys, how you feeling?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Yeah, I'm keeping anything I ever need to say real short so we can get on with the show, because this show is going to be a banger.
Yeah.
You know what? That's right. Let's skip with the normal banter. This is not what our listeners came on this episode for. They want to hear our very special guest. We have a crossover episode with the Go Long podcast. We've got Ty Dunne and Jim Monos. Ty Dunne, who has been on the show once before, founder of the Go Long NFL newsletter, former reporter for Bleacher Report, who also covered the Packers and the Bills. Ty, welcome back to the PPP, man.
Great to be back, fellas. Great to be back. It was a blast. It's an honor. And I'm still mad at myself for getting the times mixed up. So we got off on a bad foot. I better bring it. That's all I'm going to say. I better bring my A game the rest of the show here.
Well, I'd like to think that Will's porno comment is what brought you back last time. So, you know, we're just happy to have you back on. And, hey, we got like 30 minutes of just straight talk with Jim Monos. So, I mean, I can't really complain too much.
I did everybody a favor, right? I mean, I did your listeners. Nobody wants to hear my BS. They want Jim Monos, man.
So let's bring in our second guest, the other half of the Go Long podcast, Jim Monos, who is the former director of player personnel for the Buffalo Bills. That's right. We have crossed over into NFL executive territory. He also worked for the New Orleans Saints and the Philadelphia Eagles. Jim, welcome to the show, dude.
Man, guys, this is great. I feel like we know each other. I mean, we had a nice little
That was a good long warm up. It was like a half hour.
I love it, man. This
go
is
way
fun,
back.
man. Tyler, we gotta get Tyler fired up. We gotta get Tyler excited about something. Like, once he gets going, that's when the show gets moving.
Yeah, we got to do something to get Ty revved up. Let's go ahead and start the show. So we're going to do things a little bit differently. We are going to start our division previews this week. So no team deep dives on this episode. We will be diving deep on the Saints for the flavor of the week. But we're going to start this week our division previews, and it's going to line right up until week 1. And today we've got the former director of player personnel for the Bills, a writer who reported on the Bills. So obviously we're doing the AFC East. But before we get into that, we're going to have a little chat, because it's not always we have Ty Dunne and Jim Monos on. So there's some questions that we want to ask.
Welcome to the Pigskin Party Podcast,
Anthony,
the only podcast that combines real...
Our producer has gone rogue and decided to rerun the intro. Okay. So, we should just keep that in. Don't edit that part out. So, once again, let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to have it. There you go. Now you hit the right button. Anthony just hit the wrong button. Did you already start?
I can't believe you pay this guy actual money.
You hit it 2 times. It doesn't make it better, Anthony. Simmer down. Okay. Once again, we're going to do our AFC East preview, but first we're going to have a little chat with Jim and Ty. There's some questions we want to ask. There's some questions that listeners and some Bills Mafia people have. But first, today's episode is presented by Legit Football. Legit Football, the top 5 NFL stories delivered direct to your inbox for free each morning. Go to legitfootball.com and subscribe, and also look for a link in the episode description. So, Jim, we actually already had like a nice long 30-minute chat, some of which was recorded, some of which wasn't. So how are you feeling? You ready to go for a few more minutes here?
Oh yeah, let's fire away. We're ready. Tyler and I, we're nonstop. We're talking about. We got divisions figured out. We're ready.
My plan is not to ask any Mahomes or Rodgers questions. I know you guys have like a little. We're going to try to spare you from that, but let's start with Will. I know he's eager. He's got some questions of his own. Shoot, go ahead.
I work with a lot. For some reason, I work with all like Bills Mafia people, and I have my entire life. So I got to give them. I told them they could pose one question each to you, or with you guys with the opportunity. So it's Joe, Adam, and Chris. And Joe's question is, EJ Manuel ? WTF?
You're gonna get the real EJ story here. Set it straight, Jim. Set it straight.
I can't wait to hear this, dude.
Just remember who drafted him. The GM was Buddy Nix, who drafted EJ Manuel.
Okay.
It wasn't Doug Whaley. Doug was assistant GM, and obviously they all were on, supporting each other. But that was a Buddy Nix pick, and he retired right after that pick. So, that one hurts. That one hurts.
If I can jump in real quick on that, because Jim's way too modest, way too nice of a guy. So when I did that first story at Go Long, and I'm talking to Doug Whaley about this, and look, I was guilty as charged. I covered the team. I attached E.J. Manuel to Doug Whaley in every column, every story, made them synonymous, and it was not right at all. I mean, Buddy, if you go back and look at it, Buddy Nix was the GM. Buddy Nix wanted to deliver a franchise quarterback to Buffalo, thought he did, bailed right after the draft. Doug Whaley takes over. But I forget how I asked him, Jim. I think it was like, how did you view, E.J. Manuel? Did you kind of see him as like a third rounder? And he basically said, yeah, like that's kind of how he saw him. Like as a quarterback who could, progress and develop and maybe be a starter down the road, but not a guy to start day one like he was forced to. I mean, it was a tough situation for him. And to Jim and Doug's credit, Kyle Orton was the guy in 2014, and you got 9 wins out of him. So you did bail on EJ kind of soon, about a year into it. So it's good to cut bait. More teams should cut bait.
We're going down. Get him out.
There's every time Kyle Orton's name is brought up, it's the best. I can't help but smile. Like that guy, we did not have a very good offensive line that year, and he didn't want to be hit anymore in his career. I mean, he kind of, and I don't blame him. I don't blame him one bit. But what he did, if we would have had him for a whole offseason and he was committed with that talent that we had on offense and defense, we would have been pretty good.
That's fair.
I have heard you
I tell
say
you
on
what,
the
I've
pod
never
that
seen Aaron Rodgers look that bad in a game. And I was covering the Packers that 2014 season. Like, you guys made him look terrible in that game in December. He was MVP that year too, and he was terrible.
That was all Jim's doing. He was part of the game plan.
Nope.
The mastermind.
So switching gears, Adam's question is, pick or one player you feel like you nailed, you were most right on, and one you feel like you completely whiffed on.
That's good.
The whiff for sure. I want to make sure I get the right whiff. But
you still don't know this guy.
I'm going to go with Cyrus Kwanjo. I didn't think Kwanjo would ever not be at least a good tackle in the NFL. I really thought he had a good makeup to make it, and he just didn't physically. He just didn't really have it, and there was a lot of other things in his life that weren't easy for him to handle either. So I would go with Kwanjo as the biggest whiff. What was the other one? And we're just talking Bills.
Who did you nail? Who do you feel like you just smashed it?
I'll just go with Trey White. I love Trey White. I had a top 10 grade on Trey White, and that one was just. I'm glad that one went down the way it went down.
Cool.
That's a good one to hang your hat on right there.
Yeah, I feel good about that one.
Yeah, our pre-draft discussion was all about Josh Allen's development and the Bears taking Fields, which you guys are sounds like you're a big fan of, and so it's fun, man. It's good. The last question from my old boss, actually, Chris, says, do you feel like the Bills are going to be more of a run-first team this year, and if so, who's it going to?
No, I don't think they'll be a run-first team at all.
I agree. Not with Josh Allen.
I was going to say, why was
it
Zach Moss and Devin Singletary or Josh Allen and Stephon Diggs? I mean,
yeah.
Maybe a run more team.
I think they probably meant run more. He said, are we going to run the ball more this year? And if so, who's going to get the touches? So, I don't know.
Tyler, what do I always say? You run the ball in the fourth quarter to win the game. You throw to score points and get the lead.
And you're gonna have to win.
You gotta run the ball
game at some point in January. Every team needs it. Even Mahomes did. Damian Williams. Yeah, he should have been the Super Bowl MVP.
Should have been Super Bowl MVP. Absolutely. Tommy, any questions for Jim while we still have him on?
Oh man, this has nothing to do with the Bills because, as an Eagles fan, I wouldn't be doing my fan base any justice if I didn't get to slander Howie, right? No, this has nothing to do with Howie because he doesn't deserve the freaking airtime because he's garbage. Sorry, I got a little fired up there. So I want you to explain who you thought coming out of this draft that we just had. Beautiful, fantastic, talented rookies in the wide receiver position. Which one was the most talented, and why was it Devonta Smith?
Oh my God!
You just can't let him go.
So, are you worried?
I did feel like he get disrespected.
I do. I like Smith. I do like Smith. You know what I love about Smith, and this is what you're going to love about him, is people don't talk how tough he is enough. Like, this guy is physically so tough, and I'm such a Tyler. We talk about it all the time. That is the number one thing. When that guy has that heart and determination and talent, he should succeed. There should be no problem. He should be just fine. I do like who'd Miami take from Bama?
Waddle.
Jalen Waddle.
That guy is pretty special.
So here's the thing, right? Here's what I see as a casual fan. Coming into the draft, Devonta Smith, unquestioned Heisman winning guy, right? Waddle a little hurt towards the end of the year, and then you had Chase in the mix too, right? It was kind of a 1, 2, 3, coming towards the end of the year. But when you get into the draft, it kind of went like that. Waddle skyrocketed his stock. Smith kind of fell, and Chase was really always kind of sort of high. It's interesting how that progresses. Is that because were scouts always high on Waddle coming in, and it was just he didn't get the attention because Smith had all the Heisman stuff around him? Or?
Yeah, Waddle was no secret in the scouting world, and it was just a matter of, whenever a guy doesn't stay healthy, and that's always a little bit of a concern. But it goes to show you how good he is. Miami, they didn't care, so.
Well, Jim, the question I'm going to ask you, because I know you're not going to be able to stick around for the AFC East preview, is do you think the Bills repeat as division champs? Let's get your prediction for the AFC East this season.
I like the Bills to repeat, but I think this division is going to be tough. I actually do think this Miami team is really good. Let's see what Tua does. I'm not a Tua fan, but I'm not giving up on him either because he coming off an injury. I can't throw it away.
It's too early to tell. That's my thought.
Jets are going to be fascinating. They're getting better, and we'll see how good this quarterback is.
Tyler's laughing.
And the Patriots, I don't know. I still don't see it with the Patriots, but unless Cam Newton,
Mac Jones, was it a reach?
No, I'm not even bringing his name up. Cam Newton's got to be better than him, and Cam Newton's shot. So, after saying all that, the Bills are the best team in this division. I just think each game they're going to have to show up and play, and not just show up and be your normal team. But these teams are getting better. I do think these teams are getting better.
I want to ask before we one more question. The 49ers, everyone was surprised about Trey Lance, right? Do you think they got that right? He couldn't. I think for Trey, what a better spot to get developed than the Niners. But from the Niners' point of view, did they get the right guy? That was kind of a shock to everybody.
Well, you have to think they think they got the right guy. They had to know that's who they wanted. I don't buy into it. I just think they had to feel good about Trey Lance to make that move. I think that's a loaded football team. Tyler and I talked about them a couple of weeks ago. I think the 49ers are loaded. So I'm interested. We'll see if, we laugh about coaches sometimes a lot. And Shanahan's one of those kind of anointed gurus, but really, when you really study some stuff, it's, Tyler always brings it up. And I just think that team is so good. I can't wait to see what happens. I don't care who the quarterback is. Even if they put Trey Lance in there this year, I think that team is that good.
Who is Tom Brady's MFer that he was referring to?
Wait, who was what? Tom.
You know what I'm talking about? Tom Brady went on the HBO
promo
show
for
and
the
he goes,
shop.
You're gonna stick with that MFer? What do you think he was talking about?
Cam.
You don't know?
No.
Cam?
No.
That's the first time anybody said that.
Yeah.
All right. I like
That's
it.
fair.
That's a good take
fair.
to end on. Jim, I know you had to head out. Thanks so much for coming on. We'll definitely get you back on. You're on vacation. You were so awesome just to come on.
Absolute legend.
Yeah, we had some great chats with you while Ty was having another beer or two. So hey,
I appreciate it, guys. That was
Thanks
real fun. We'll talk soon.
Wow.
All right, thanks a lot, man.
He's in
Anthony trying to redeem himself with the round of applause.
That was Jim live broadcasting from his 47th house in Maui, of course.
Well, one thing I'll say, and Ty says this all the time on his pod, is why does an NFL team not have that man running their franchise? Just
what does he do right now? He doesn't. He just hangs out. Like, I don't mean it like that, but I mean, like, what is he?
I think he's looking for jobs, right? I mean, it's he was with the XFL for a bit when the NFL stuff kind of fell apart with the Bills. So, with that coming back, maybe there'll be some opportunities. But yeah, it's a travesty. I don't get it. And obviously, I'm biased. We have a podcast together, and I'm around him all the time. But I mean, you hear him, Brian. Like, he is so smart, and he's so outside the box. He doesn't succumb to groupthink on anything. That's what you need more of in the NFL. There's a lot of good old boys. Everybody's scratching each other's backs. Everybody kind of getting caught up into the same mock drafts and the same way of doing shit. And it's just like, you need more free thinkers out there. And he did a lot of good, right?
Yeah.
He's the first to admit that they couldn't figure out quarterback. That's a pretty big thing. But around that position, the drafts, the free agent pickups, they did a hell of a job. They really did.
See, I think, and we were talking about this week, Tyler, about like, how do you make an interesting show and what do you talk about with guests, right? And one of the things, when you got somebody like that or somebody like yourself that has these different experiences than everyday fans would have, like, what do you ask of somebody like that, And so it didn't make it on the on this show, the conversation that we had with him, because Anthony decided not to record it. But it was great. You ask somebody like, how do you graduate college and how do you get there? And like, what does the average person not see about the process, right? I mean, I think even covering a team, like, you think, oh, you just hang out with the players and they tell you stuff and you write about it. Like, obviously that's mostly it. But then, like in the reality of the day-to-day life, what does that actually look like and what is the experience like? This stuff's so fascinating to me because you don't get access to those kind of people, you know what I mean? That are in the know and have the experience,
No doubt. I'm so glad you guys could hang out with him more, and I still feel terrible about mixing up the time, so I'll probably bring that up 18 more times tonight. Okay. But, yeah, I mean, it's a fascinating job, and when you're out there, our worlds would collide, when I'm in the media and Jim's a scout, from the Eagles to the Saints to the Bills, and you're at a lot of the same functions. You're at the Combine, you're at the Senior Bowl, on the beat, you're around the facility, you're bumping into each other, and I guess when I would run into Jim, it was just so authentic and real, and you could tell he wasn't, like, in his head, it wasn't like, oh my God, there's a reporter, F him. Like, he wasn't trained to hate us, where a lot of guys kind of are. It's just like, oh, screw that guy with the notepad, like, he's evil. Like, Jim's just a curious guy and wants to learn things, and I don't really think I could, like, show him anything, like, he doesn't already know. That you heard him, he's like, he wants to ask questions himself, and I think that is such a good quality to have for somebody in that position where I think he asks so many questions and is constantly learning, and he was around great people. Sean Payton, Andy Reid. I'm not going to throw Rex Ryan in there. Rex, that's a whole other conversation.
Is he as goofy and like as you would think he would be in real life?
Rex?
I imagine he's a firecracker. You know what I mean? Like he's like those guys who would just be like off the deep end, kind of like who's that coach that always tweets his memes? Oh God, he's a meme too. I see his face, but
the coach that tweets the memes.
Yeah, the college football coach, dude. You know what I'm talking about. He now's in the SEC. Anyway,
I'm lost.
But
Ed Orgeron?
I'll think of his name.
Nice anecdote there, Will.
Shut up. Listen, what I'm saying is that, like, you see these people and you're like, that guy's definitely got to be fun to hang out with, but you wouldn't want to be like around him all the time. You know.
It felt like a production with Rex, to be honest. Like, I should take that. There's a lot of different ways to look at Rex Ryan. That's one of them. It's a production, and when he goes up to the podium, he's putting on a performance. Like, it didn't really ever feel too authentic. Like in the Clemson helmet one day, eating dog biscuits another day, jumping out of an airplane another day in Niagara Falls, to like just, I don't know, it kind of felt forced a lot, and he was on the defensive, and I remember one time he said he didn't know the name of the Patriots starting running back, and then Dion Lewis, who it was that week, just torched the Bills. Like, he would just do unnecessary things like that. But Jim would be the first to tell you, players did love playing for him. Like, his pregame speeches were authentic, and he did get guys jacked up. Eric Wood has said, like, it's the most empowering stuff you'll hear in your entire life. Like, he is that kind of old school coach, but the defensive players hated the scheme. Like, they wanted to just go point A to point B and keep it simple, like they had with Jim Schwartz, and he made it all complicated and had all these fire zones and all this crazy stuff. They were overthinking, and in 14, when they're shutting down Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning, they go to 15 and they're a bottom 5, bottom 10 defense. So it was a really weird, dichotomy, right? Like, where juxtaposition, where they loved him in a lot of ways, but they hated him in a lot of ways, and it was never going to work.
That's how I feel about Brian, actually. By the way, it's
who's the Rex Ryan in this scenario? Me or you?
Mike Leach is the coach I was talking about. Mike Leach is that kind of guy where
is
you're
that
like,
the I'm 40 guy?
He's pretty funny, but like
That's
you wouldn't
Dundee.
want to be friends with him on a date. What do you think the media? Because a lot of people look at Marshawn Lynch, right? Marshawn Lynch hated the media because he thought it's all dumb, right? Like, you go after a game, you just played your heart out, right? And you'd have like, how did it feel to score the touchdown, Marshawn? And he'd be like, it felt great, Jim. You know what I mean? And you'd have like this really just dumb interaction that there's not a lot of substance there. So obviously, as a reporter, I'm sure you put some thought into like, what can I ask this person that they haven't been asked 5,000 times that can like spur thought, right? Come from a different place. Do you do that? Or do you do like the layups for your audience, which is just like, everyone wants me to ask this question. I'm going to ask it. I know you know what I mean? Like, yeah. I guess the first part of my question is, which angle do you come at it from?
It's a great question. And saying that Rex is putting on a performance, I think all press conferences by nature are productions. Really, everybody's just kind of playing a role. I always hated press conferences. Even when I was in Green Bay covering the Packers, Bob McGinn was such a mentor for me. And this is kind of how he approached it. I don't know if maybe a couple. I can count on one hand the number of questions I heard Bob ask at a press conference. And he's the best Packers reporter of all time. You're not going to get honesty in that setting, or very rarely you're going to get sincere answers with substance, because it doesn't feel real. Like, you're in this huge room. There's a ton of people. There's one person up there in front of a mic. He knows the world is watching him. He isn't going to say shit. Unless he's going into that, determined to say something. If he's got a plan, I'm going to light this person out. I hated press conferences and post-game locker, in the post-game setting. I usually would just skip them and go right into the locker room, get guys one-on-one as much as possible, try to get that exclusivity, to have a real conversation. I never want to have interviews. I want to have conversations. I don't want to treat them as sources or subjects. They're human beings, and if you approach it that way, to your question, well, you're going to get good answers, right? It's not going to be in front of the world to see, but it will be in an article, and it's going to be real, and it's going to have some substance to it.
As someone who obviously has been following Go Long since the beginning, that from what I see, that's kind of what you do now. These are real conversations with prospects, with actual NFL players. You just had the one about this guy's hometown, and there's people he knew were getting killed, and that's real stuff. That's not hey, do you think you'll get more rushing yards this year? But that comes across, and that you're displaying the human side of these players, and there should be more people doing stuff like that in the NFL media.
I really appreciate you guys checking that out. It's tough, though. I get it. A lot of it is the way the league is set up and what the teams want. They want the press conference. They want to push the podium. I'm sure they loved COVID in a lot of ways, and at least with the job, because everything was on Zoom. These teams could just trot out 2-3 players a day. Everybody's writing the same stories. It's centralized messaging. It's a little extreme to call it this. It's kind of like Russia, right? It's kind of everybody
football.
Everybody can write what they want, but it's all by design. It's not an open locker room where guys are in at their locker just hanging out and you're having conversations. So even during the pandemic, safely, I tried to get guys one-on-one over dinner, over lunch. Like, for go along this offseason, I went down to Florida for a week and just did a bunch of stories down there, seeing guys in person, because that's when you're going to get the best stories. That's when you're going to get real stuff. And you can on Zoom in a one-on-one a little bit, but it's still not real. Like the story you referenced with Damar Hamlin for the Bills, we went to my favorite chicken wing spot in Western New York because he wanted to get wings. He wanted to get the full experience. And when guys are eating wings and they're, filling their stomachs, they tend to be happy. So I do a lot of interviews, a lot of conversations over food, for sure.
Do you think the players, obviously Marshawn didn't think that the media gave him any real value, right? That's what it comes across as anyway. Do you think that that's, in general how NFL players view the media, or do you think that, what value would you say the media brings to individual players? Obviously, you echoing somebody's story, right, and getting it out there and bringing awareness around something, that is valuable above and beyond their platform, because they just don't, they don't have in a press conference, they're not going to talk about that kind of stuff, right? But, I mean, you're not, is that the value that the media brings to players, and why would they open up to you in that way? I mean, is it for their charities? Is that kind of what you think they see of the benefit they can have having good relationships with you guys?
I think there's still a benefit to storytelling and an athlete putting his or her trust into somebody to tell their story. And you can go to the Players Tribune, you can fire out as many tweets and TikToks and Instagram posts as you want, and people can get to know you that way, no doubt. But I think people still want to read. They still want, a plot. They still want, people love going to the movies still, right? They still love watching TV shows. They still love reading books. These players all have stories to tell. And they might not be able to tell them in a way that captivates an audience in a real way. And there's also, this more sinister way to look at it too, where I think they do value, what we do that way and trust us and want us, to tell a good story. The sinister side would be they could be manipulating the media. I know that there's a lot of star players that get buddy with some local reporters and some national reporters. One of them may be the quarterback for the Packers. I don't know, but
I said I wouldn't bring him up, but you're welcome to bring him up.
I mean, his love for Pat McAfee is obvious, right? You mean somebody else besides that?
Besides that, I think, and there's some really good people locally. Don't get me wrong; they still cover the Packers in a very good way, but I do think there's one particular that have kind of crossed that threshold of maybe not being reporters anymore, and they'd more so just like to be Aaron Rodgers' friend. And he does a great job of kind of manipulating that relationship, and he's endeared himself locally, endeared himself nationally, and that there is a lot of good that comes from that if you're Aaron Rodgers. I mean, you're beloved on a lot of different layers, a lot of different ways. Look, he's the MVP. He's unbelievable quarterback. That's enough reason to love a guy. But in terms of the human element of it, I think he plays it very, very well. I'll never forget Bob McGinn in a column once. When I was out there on the beat, I didn't know Aaron Rodgers really well. We did some conversations once a year, one-on-one. I always learned a lot from him. Relationship was good then. But Bob wrote in a column once that Aaron Rodgers knows how to manipulate people in situations. And he told me privately examples. He didn't put it in his column, but Aaron came up to him in the locker room the next day, I think, and was pissed. Bob, why did you say this? You said to manipulate people in situations? And Bob didn't back down. He let him, as Bob says, every player has every right to be upset about anything he writes. Absolutely. Have a conversation. And Bob cited a few examples, and that was that. You know what I mean? So I've never forgotten that. That was in 2013, I think, that he wrote that. But he's a smart dude. I feel like, and that's what makes it hard to figure out what he's doing right now. It's easy to go back
he could
and
be
forth.
playing
What's
us
the
all,
master
right?
plan?
We have no idea.
I feel
what
like
he's thinking.
Their public is very much waiting and seeing, right? Because Aaron Rodgers' personal life, because you hear stories about his estranged family and all these other things, and he's not whatever, right? And then you've got the NFL, the MVP, right, and all that kind of stuff that he's brought from an NFL perspective. I feel like right now Aaron Rodgers is sort of at a public relations crossroads. He can either make this go really bad for himself or really good for himself, depending on what he does. And everyone's just kind of waiting and seeing, where he's at. I mean, that's what it feels like to me anyway. Plus, if you put you and Aaron Rodgers side by side and you added your hair, you would get this. He's got
Right,
like
there's
those
nothing
long
going on
locks,
here.
and then you got nothing, so you would come up with this, or maybe like a Tommy Yu situation.
You nailed it, though, Will. He is at that crossroads. I wonder, in an honest moment, if he would admit he didn't expect there to be as much backlash as there was. You know, when that report comes out that he wants Gutekunst fired, which he hasn't denied, by the way, he could come out and say it was a bunch of BS, and he hasn't done that. So I guess we are to assume he wants the GM fired. You know, I don't think he expected Packer fans to be as upset and take the team's side like they did. It was like 80-20 as far as I could tell. Like, they see it for what it is. Dude, I mean, they're willing to make you the richest quarterback. You've got maybe the best roster in football. You're the quarterback in Green Bay as long as you're playing well. Like, you could just force them to trade Jordan Love. You know, Brett Favre wanted back in. Aaron Rodgers apparently wants out. They see it for what it was. I don't know if that sways him one way or another. I still think he's dug in, but we'll see.
Well, I personally, Ty, could talk to you for like 3 hours about just random stuff, and I'm sure the guys agree. But I know we only have so much time. Let's go ahead and dive into the AFC East preview. Unless, Tommy, you didn't really ask any questions. I feel bad. Do you
had
have a
some
question
questions, but for the sake of the show, I'll let it continue for now. And maybe I'll reach out to Tyler in some DMs and be like, yo, Will took all my time, but it's cool. I still love him.
Was one of your
me
questions
rambling
about-
on and on, too. I apologize.
Was one of your questions about Devonta Smith?
No, it was actually zero Devonta Smith talk. This is actually
That's
legitimate
a lie.
questions.
That is a lie. That's
All
a
right,
lie.
maybe
I'm surprised
back in
there's
the
been no
chamber
Gio Bernard
I did,
question.
but I was like, no, I got to respect Tyler's time and give him real questions, and I was prepared. But it's cool. I do want to see his breakdown of this division as well, though. So all good stuff.
And this is not the first time Ty has been on. It will not be the last time. Tommy will make sure that Will's not allowed to ask any questions next time. All right. So let's go ahead and move on to our AFC East preview. As I mentioned, we're going to be previewing each division each week leading up right into week 1 of the regular season. So we're starting with the AFC East. I knew right away that I wanted Ty and Jim on for this episode. So let's go ahead and jump in. We're going to go through each team, starting from the standings from 2020. So first place Bills all the way down to last place Jets. We're just going to go around the horn and everybody kind of give their take on each team. We won't take too much time on this, and then we'll get predictions from everybody where they think this division is going to end in 2021. So obviously we'll start with the Buffalo Bills, the team Ty used to report on. So some of the key additions they made, so they re-signed offensive tackle Darrell Williams. They brought back Matt Milano, which is a Jim Monos draft pick, so let's not forget to point that out. Some key additions, wide receiver Emmanuel Sanders and quarterback Mitch Trubisky getting a more solid backup. I know that Jim has also said on your pod that having that backup quarterback is quarterback's everything, so why not get somebody like that? Might be a good spot for Trubisky. Key 2021 NFL draft picks, defensive end Gregory Rousseau out of Miami and Carlos Basham out of Wake Forest. And who they lost, John Brown, who went to the Raiders, Tyler Kroft, and Quentin Jefferson. So, Ty, as somebody who used to cover the Bills, start with you first. You think the Bills are primed to take this division and more?
Definitely win the division. They should, right? I mean, this is theirs to repeat because they didn't really lose anybody. Like, John Brown, they upgraded, I think, with Emmanuel Sanders and Gabe Davis and Marquez Stevenson. Just a steal of a 6th-round pick. He's a burner. So they get better there. They brought back the right tackle. They bring back Milano. I guess the only question I would have is the pass rush, right? Like, they weren't able to get after Patrick Mahomes. Now, but that's a different conversation, right? If we're talking AFC, if we're talking Super Bowl, you know, that is still a question mark. But in the division, it's theirs. It's theirs to lose. Like, until somebody can prove they can stop Josh Allen, at least slow him down, it's the Bills. I don't know how you can. They just moved the ball, scored at will. There was a good month and a half stretch from like mid-November into the playoffs where they just did whatever they wanted, and they couldn't even run the ball.
After the loss to the Cardinals in the Hail Murray, after that they just were a freight train.
Totally. So I think they're in great shape.
What a stud! That was an amazing play.
That was a fantastic play. But stop trying to derail us, Will. I'm going to go to Tommy. Tommy needs some time. Tommy, we know that how much you dig into tape with college prospects. Did you watch any tape of Josh Allen out of Wyoming 3 years ago?
I did, and there are a lot of really, really great things Tyler brings in, and I feel like it's definitely not a hot take to say the Buffalo Bills will win their division because there's a lot of people that says the Buffalo Bills are arguably one of the best teams in the NFL, period. And so there are some concerns, because I want to play devil's advocate, because I'm very much on everyone's side. I think Buffalo Bills are the most talented team, top to bottom, in this division, so it's their division to lose. But Tyler did a great job painting a picture on how that can happen. Now I kind of want to play the other side on how things could fall apart. Some of the things that I looked at, with not just the tape when he was in Wyoming, but till now, he's obviously gotten better every single year, which is something that everyone wants to see. But one thing a lot of people I feel like maybe not ignoring, but is kind of hidden on the MVP performance that Josh Allen pretty much put on last year is it's not that he was careless with the ball, but he had a lot of turnover-worthy plays. I'm not saying he had a lot of turnovers, but he had a lot of turnover-worthy plays. And based on kind of the notes that I had, and I was kind of checking the industry as well, he was really high up there. PFF has him as the second most highest turnover-worthy plays, and only behind Carson Wentz. I had Josh Allen as my third, but still, that just kind of paints a picture that if the ball bounces the wrong way next time, he might be a little bit higher in those type of plays. And one other great thing that Tyler put on is that pass rusher. I mean, Jerry Hughes is great. Mario Addison is great, but they will lose a step getting a little bit older and things like that. And I know the Bills have a lot of great young talent that I personally adore. Like, who is it? You guys have Ed Oliver, so I'm like, oh my God, dude, absolutely. I don't know how you guys got him when you guys did. But anyway, if they aren't ready to take that step up, things could get a little bit more shaky. But I completely agree with Ty, though. It's theirs to lose, but for me, I don't think it's as clear cut as I would like it to be. Looking at it on paper, I was like, oh, it should be the Bills. But then when I really sat down to look, I said, oh wow, it's still theirs, but it's not as like a far and away pass as I thought.
Well, I remember saying on this podcast a few times during the regular season last year that as great as Josh Allen looked, there were usually 4 to 5 plays a game where it's just like, oh, well, that was badly inaccurate throw. And then by the end of the season, I'm like, you know what? It doesn't matter. They're crushing teams. I don't care that he throws 4 passes that misses targets horribly. It's not coming back to haunt him. Maybe, Tommy, there was a little bit of luck involved. I like that you bring that up. But I think we're all in alignment with regards to the pass rush. And that's why we saw what Tampa Bay did to Mahomes. You want to beat Mahomes? You have got to make him run 500 yards behind the line of scrimmage like the Bucs did. And addressing, obviously they addressed the draft early with the pass rush with Rousseau and Basham. They're going to need at least one of those guys to step up quickly if they want to compete conference-wise. But, yeah, I'm hearing what you guys say in the division.
Could there be a better name for somebody to get after the quarterback than Basham? Like, that's really what you want him to do.
Basham is going to be a stud, too. I freaking love that guy.
I mean,
he's so good.
He could be named, like, Kiss 'em or Hug 'em, or, like, those would be worse names. But Basham, that's so defensive. Such a defensive name.
The guy was destined to be an edge rusher in the
Tickle
NFL.
him. Carlos Tickle him.
That has a weird connotation. Will, any quick takes other than the Basham name mentioned on the Buffalo Bills?
I straight put money on the Bills to win the Super Bowl last year, and I will straight put money on the Bills to do it again this year. I'm going to get pretty good odds on that. To be clear, it's not like they're the favorite or anything.
You got really good odds last year.
They got really good odds
this year.
But I mean, all of what you guys said. I mean, prime team. I continue to be impressed at the development they did with Allen. Like I said many times, and we talked about with Jim Monos before. He has done the opposite of what Danny Dimes did, and everyone thought that he would do what Danny Dimes did coming into the NFL, and he's just gone the other way. And I think it's just a testament to what they've done there in Buffalo. And I'm going to the Tampa Bills game in Tampa, and it's going to be a hell of a time. I get to see all of that. It was going to be a game no matter what, but now I could go see the Bills and all that stuff, and I got all my Bills Mafia friends with me, so it's going to be a great time. But I say the Bills are going to take the East this year easily. Because I'm sorry, I don't believe in Tua right now. He needs to prove me wrong.
We're going to get to Miami in just
a
second. Yeah, well, wait, you be patient. So the one thing I'll mention, I believe I read earlier today that Josh Allen's improvement from year 2 to year 3 was the largest in PFF history as far as the actual grade from year 2 to year 3. Technically, Danny Dimes coming off year 2, maybe I don't see him making that kind of leap. Ty, I think you and Jim are high on the Giants this season.
Yeah. I'm probably a little too high on the Giants. I kind of love me some Danny Dimes. He'll be.
What do you love about Danny Dimes?
You know what? Maybe it's not so much Danny Dimes. I know this is
It's his
AFC, so I apologize, Brian, but really quick.
That's all right.
Everything they did around him. Everything they did around him it's like
100%.
what the Bills did the last 2 years. Like
100%.
I love it. And the defense is way better than Buffalo's defense, or better than Buffalo's defense as well. He only has to score like 23, 24 points a game, and I think they could pretty much beat anybody. And Saquon might be the best running back in the league. Kadarius Toney, stud, slot man. I mean, you still have Slayton, you still have Sterling Shepard. Kenny Golladay, legit number one. I mean, last year he might have been nursing that injury a little bit. You know, there's some contract stuff going on there. Year before, stud. I don't know. I love the Giants. I think Daniel Jones.
I think I have to throw up.
Hang on.
I'm sorry, Tommy.
If the Giants kind of go this year with all of that around him, win. Is it time to move on from Daniel Jones?
God, yeah. I mean, it's still all the pressure's on him, and Tua. I mean, both teams did so much around the quarterback. Like, if he stinks, then you got to move on, or your asses should be fired.
Yeah, and that's the perfect segue into talking about Miami, is a lot of what you described, surrounding them with weapons, having a star defense, having a solid coach. There are no excuses left. So now let's go ahead and dive into the Miami Dolphins, my team. Key players re-signed. They brought back linebacker Vince Beagle and linebacker Elandon Roberts. They added Will Fuller, Justin Coleman, the cornerback out of Detroit, and Adam Butler from the Patriots. Their key draft picks, Jim actually mentioned earlier, he really likes Jalen Waddle and defensive end Jalen Phillips to up that pass rush. They did lose Ryan Fitzpatrick, which I know we're all big fans of Fitz on this show, but I think that's the right move, not having him behind Tua. They lost defensive tackle Davin Godchaux.
The right move is having him in front of Tua.
Will, you will get your Miami Dolphins bashing time, all right? Bash them. Quiet. I'll start this as the resident Dolphin fan on this podcast. So much depends on Tua. I mean, even as a Dolphins fan, I'm of the mind that he has not shown enough, obviously, but he also hasn't had much time to show it. Was the right move by Flores to pull him twice in his rookie season? Probably not. But coming off an injury where people would question whether he would play again, going into a really, really weird offseason where he did not actually get to train, he didn't get to prepare because of COVID. He came in, he looked a little skinny, he didn't really know he admitted that he didn't know the playbook, whether that's a Chan Gailey thing and they were just feeding him and giving him like a cookie-cutter offense, or he just wasn't picking it up. We will see. But the fact remains, they've added playmakers, they've upgraded the offensive line, that defense is already strong. You don't have excuses. Gesicki will be back healthy. You've got Waddle. You've got Fuller. Devontae Parker is going to be great as a non-primary wide receiver where all the defensive coverages don't focus on him. I think Gaskin is a solid running back. Salvin Ahmed did great when he came in relief last season. They don't have a stud at running back, but they've got solid contributors there. But it doesn't matter. It's hard for me, even as a Dolphins fan, to say, the Dolphins are going to win the East because we don't know what Tua is going to do. I'm of the mind that the jury's still out. I'm not going to sit here and say Tua is the truth. We're yet to see. I believe he can be. I've seen him. He showed flashes last year, and obviously his time in Alabama. So yeah, we will see. So, Will, I'll let you go next on this one. Tell us how awful the Dolphins are going to be in 2021.
I don't think they are, dude. I really like Flores, the job that he's done. Like you just said, I mean, they've surrounded him with talent. How can you, if you were an NFL quarterback, how can you not have pretty good success in that system? So I don't think they are. I think they're going to legitimately push Buffalo all the way to the end. You know, I think how deep they go is going to depend on Tua, right, and all of that kind of stuff. I mean, very interesting how the Xavier Howard situation plays out. Somebody I really think they need to make happy and figure that out. You know, I think the world is excited to see Waddle. The world is excited to see if Tua can hit Waddle, right, and like let him do the things that he's designed to do. It's an unfortunate name for a guy who's supposed to be fast. He should be like Jalen Stride, or like, you know. But
so
like
you're saying
Waddle?
His name is not as matching as Basham,
right?
Fit.
No, it's not. He's the opposite of Basham. Waddle. Like, that would be me. If I was an NFL receiver, I'd be like Will Waddle, right? And that's what I would do. I would get off the line like Tim Tebow is going to do in Jacksonville.
I'm going to introduce you as Will Waddle in every episode going forward. I just think I love the alliteration of it. It's perfect. It's worth noting that I mentioned Chan Gailey. Chan Gailey has since retired, which I think he's done like 3 times in his career at this point. They have brought on co-offensive coordinators, so Eric Studesville and George Godsey. So to be determined if having 2 offensive coordinators is the way to go. We will see, but definitely rests on Tua. Tommy, I know you have opinions here. What are your thoughts?
Well, just on that point, yeah, you guys are fine because the Eagles had a great idea thinking, oh, we have no OC. That's fine. We'll be okay. And then we saw how that happened. So in that theory, if you guys have 2 and the Eagles had 0, oh, you guys, we should slot you in for the Super Bowl already. But in all seriousness, I think Miami can go as far as not how far Tua can take them, but how far their offensive line can take them. The offensive line was really, really bad last year. And the reason why this is more concerning than normal, Tua Tagovailoa, he was a rookie. You know, you already painted that picture. Didn't have a long offseason due to COVID. You know, he had that life-threatening hip injury, honestly. And then he was able to come back. So my biggest concern for him when I was looking at his tape was, when he actually is under pressure, he is not that good, which is weird because everyone said Tua's one of his great feats was his improvisation, making something happen out of nothing. Well, making something out of nothing doesn't necessarily mean he was under pressure. It just meant the play broke down. He got to just use his athleticism, run around, and find an open guy in Alabama. Not very hard. No disrespect to Tua Tagovailoa. But when you actually saw that there was real legitimate pressure in his face, the decisions he made afterwards were always very questionable. And I know that's something that I feel like Nick Saban saw as well. And that kind of correlated to the NFL. He had so much pressure in his rookie year, which is why I feel like he looks so bad. I think he had a passer rating of 39.5 when under pressure as a rookie, which ranked 28th out of 32 qualifying quarterbacks. I am not a mathematician, but that's not very good. That's very, very low. And so I feel like I want to be high on Miami, but I'm not as high as I feel like I want to be when I have to actually sit down and look at how everything kind of plays out. If their offensive line does make great improvements, you know, hoping for that second-year jump. Or no, they had a lot of improvement from their second-year players like Austin Jackson, Kinley, and Hunt, and all those kind of people. What you're hoping is, as a unit, they just continue to get stronger. And they don't have to be top of the league. They just have to be good enough so, you know, Tua develops that confidence. So I want to be confident for you, Brian, but then the realist in me says, well, it's not all on Tua. Like we all said, they did a great job building around him. Now it just comes down to what the offensive line can deliver for us.
Yeah, I agree. And you pinpointed the issue there. So they only have one projected starter who's had more than 1 year of experience, and that's Matt Skura, who used to be with the Ravens. He's going to be starting at center. Austin Jackson, rookie last year. Solomon Kinley, rookie last year. Robert Hunt, rookie last year. And they drafted Liam Eichenberg in the second round this year. A lot of people projected him as a first round. So there's a lot of talent here. Do they develop in year 2? That's a big question mark.
Do you feel like that Tua, just bolstered by that memory of coming in that game, you know what I mean, and just like being a hero? Do you think that's carried him? Like,
you mean the national championship at Alabama when he replaced Jalen Hurts?
Yeah.
Let's get Ty's thought on that.
That's a great point. I mean, his numbers were really, really good still, right? Like, but so were Mac Jones's, so were a lot of quarterbacks in the SEC. So I tend to agree with Tommy. I think that, God, if you were to take, I mean, I can't take credit for this, you know, swap. Mark Ross, who Jim referenced as well, does a great job with NFL Network. He made this point. Like, if you were to take Jordan Love, put him in Alabama that last year, take Tua Tagovailoa, put him in Utah State's offense when Utah State lost, 4 linemen, 3 receivers, a tight end, a running, like, Tua might have been terrible, like, because he can't improvise as well as Jordan Love can. And Jordan Love in that Alabama offense, maybe he lights it up. Maybe he's a first overall pick. So eventually the truth comes out in the NFL. There's no place to run and there's no place to hide, you know, literally and figuratively. So we're going to find out very, very soon with Tua. I'm with Jim. I still think you give it this year. You drafted him for a reason. There's a lot to still love about his game, and you surrounded him with these weapons. Josh Allen just showed you, hey, a quarterback can improve, and players around that quarterback can help him improve. And I talked to Tua's trainer, Nick Hicks, down in Florida, and the dude is adamant, like, that Tua just was a madman this offseason. Like, day in and day out, drilling. And I know maybe every trainer says that kind of stuff, but it sounds like physically his body fat is like almost nothing at this point, and he's a full year removed from that catastrophic injury. You can talk yourself into Tua being really, really good, and you can talk yourself into Tua being very, very bad. It could go. The pendulum could swing far in either direction, which makes this a lot of fun.
I mean, you said you can't run and you can't hide. Chase Daniel has been in the league for 10 years and has earned $50 million, and has never had to do
Don't
anything.
you dare slander his name. That man is my hero. He's living the American dream, so don't you dare.
I will say, in worst case scenario, the Dolphins do have 2 first-round picks next year as a result of the trade with the Niners in the draft this year. So, hey, if Tua doesn't make it, I think there's a very good chance the Dolphins move on after only 2 seasons. Let's keep it moving. We've mentioned the Patriots a few times. I'll start with Will on this, because Will, as all of our listeners know, is a fair weather fan and just likes to follow Tom Brady around wherever he goes. So a former Patriots fan, Will, key players re-signed center David Andrews and defensive tackle Lawrence Guy. The biggest thing with the Patriots is all the players they brought back from the opt-outs, like Dante Hightower, who was really the core of that defense, having him come back in 2021. They added a whole bunch of players, like Bill Belichick brought out the checkbook, and was just like paying guys left and right. Wide receiver Nelson Aguilar, Kendrick Bourne, former 49er, both tight ends Hunter Henry and Jonnu Smith. And, of course, as we mentioned, they drafted quarterback Mac Jones. Do you think this is all for naught, Will? How do you see the Patriots playing out this season?
I mean, they're going to be okay, right? Like, it's Belichick. They got, like you said, they get a return in that defense. They'll figure out something. I think they're solidly third place in the AFC East, right? Like, I think Miami is too well coached and too set up with talent. They're going to bolster Tua through the season, and I could be wrong about that. I mean, the Patriots could surprise, and the Dolphins could disappoint. But I think the division is clearly bookended first and last. I think Mac Jones was a reach. I think he's early. I think Cam Newton's shot. So
I believe you've said on this podcast Mac Jones was doo-doo biscuits.
Yes, doo-doo biscuits.
To quote the professional scouting term.
Especially as now, and Cam Newton, dude, I don't know. I don't know if it was COVID that hit him or what, but I mean, he's been great. He is not great now. So we'll see going into the year. I mean, if they can make the most of Kendrick Bourne and Aguilar and 2 tight ends, I think those 2 tight ends are going to get a lot of work for sure. So we'll see, but I think they're solidly in third place this year.
Tommy, where do you see the Pats this season?
I think this is where I'll surprise a little bit people. I do agree that the consensus should be that bookend that Will just said. It should be the Bills, Dolphins, Patriots, Jets. Spoiler alert, we're going to be talking about the Jets last soon. But I just want to say I think my warm take is I actually have the Patriots finishing better than the Dolphins, but it's purely subjective. There's no objectivity, which is weird because I know I'm the person who likes to bring in stacks.
Basically, you flipped a coin.
Exactly. Well, kind of. I usually like to bring stats into it. I say, well, look at this picture I'm painting for you, and this could happen. Well, for me, it's all purely political. For me, I like to think, all right, Bill Belichick loses Tom Brady. Everyone said, was it Bill? Was it Tom? What was it? Tom goes off, wins the Super Bowl. But Bill, at least in my eyes, I gave him a pass this past year, and I gave him a pass before the season even happened because everyone opted out on that defense. I said, it does not matter what the Patriots can do because I projected them to do terribly, and they actually did better than I thought they would do with the amount of opt-outs that they had. So in my head, I said, all right, Bill, you got your mulligan. Now this year, when you kind of got to spend that, free money, you got to get anyone you wanted. You got the tight ends. You got your defense should be coming back. You got all these other fun things. No more excuses. Now, are you still that great coach, or were you carried by Tom Brady? I know I don't believe in that narrative, but this is what people are thinking. People already think, all right, old man Tom Brady 1, Belichick 0. And you know how pity the NFL can get. So in my opinion, I think the Patriots will surprise people because I do believe that Hightower opting out impacted that defense way more than him just not being there physically and being able to produce the numbers that he does. And I think right now it does look ugly with Stephon Gilmore, but if they are able to patch that out, having Gilmore come back fully healthy, Hightower back, that defense should be good because Belichick, that's his bread and butter. He's a defensive-minded guy ever since he went all the way back with the Giants. And their offense is going to look messy because last year it did, but Bill Belichick will be able to do enough, and he spent enough money, hopefully, to make it at least better than it was last year. So it's in my opinion that I think that they do end up above Miami, at least this upcoming year.
Hang on. I think, and I'll get Ty's take on this. No, this is good. I'm going to set Ty up. There's some talk in the Patriots network that Bill Belichick is losing a step by empowering his son to be a lot more involved in the defense than he should otherwise be. Have you heard that? I mean, he's pretty involved, and I think a lot of people are torn on how much so.
I haven't heard anything down those lines. I will say there's a lot of nepotism in the pro football coaching ranks, and I do see the argument where, okay, these sons are coming through the system. They know what their dads do well. They're learning from their dads. Look, if one of my kids wanted to take over my business one day, I would show them everything I could about being a sports writer, right? Like, I'm not saying that none of these – I'm not saying 100% of these sons are unqualified at all. But there's some nepotism sprinkled in there, and it always kind of makes you wonder, makes you think, like, how good of a coach is he, really? I don't know. I can't speak one way or the other, but that is really interesting.
Oh, here's a question for you, Ty. If the Patriots have another middling record, even if it's like 9-8, which still that sounds weird.
I know.
And I don't like the 17. The math, it doesn't work. And Brady goes and wins another Super Bowl. The whole chicken and the egg, does that just go to 11 with the discussions around whether it's Brady, whether it's Belichick?
Man, I definitely think you can have that debate after this season because Bill Belichick has had a full off season to do what Bill Belichick wants to do. He gets the COVID gang back. He made his decision at quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. Mac Jones is the quarterback of the future, but I guess they're going to roll with Cam Newton right now. I think Bill Belichick's ego, like a lot of guys, is probably, okay, I got 7 wins out of that team last year. Like, with all the injuries and with all the terrible quarterback play, passing, production, with everything that went wrong. I mean, they should have beat Buffalo on the road. Justin Zimmer forces a fumble as New England's going in to win the game. They had a turnover right at the end of that Seattle game or a big stop at the end. I mean, in his head,
couldn't get in, on fourth down.
He's probably thinking those are 2 games against 2 contenders that we should have had, and I'm a genius. I'm the best ever. I'm going to go out. I'm going to sign all these guys. Got my quarterback of the future. Let's go. Let's go win the division. I think they could. I think they will finish second in the division. I think that there is some truth to that.
I got Ty on board.
You do. I think that I think Bill Belichick isn't done quite yet. I don't think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year, but I think that they're going to have a good season. I think they're going to get into the playoffs.
Well, let's wrap it up with a team that I think we all at least are unanimously agreeing is going to be the 4th place team, but will be a team that's interesting and fun to watch, especially with that new regime, and that's the New York Jets. So the key player re-signed was free safety Marcus May, which is really only one of the only real talented players they have. So they had to bring him back. So good thing for them they did. But they did bring in wide receiver Corey Davis, who used to be in Tennessee. Keelan Cole, wide receiver, used to be in Jacksonville. And running back Tevin Coleman from San Francisco. They drafted quarterback Zack Wilson, which, let's all be honest, that's what this is all going to hinge on. They also drafted a second first-rounder offensive lineman Elijah Vera Tucker out of USC. Wide receiver Elijah Moore out of Ole Miss, and running back Michael Carter out of UNC. So a lot of young talent. Obviously, brand new coaching staff with Robert Saleh, Mike LaFleur calling the offense. Both came from San Francisco. Key departures: Sam Darnold went to Carolina, and running back Frank Gore. I'm sure he'll be on a roster come regular season time. So Ty, we'll start with you on this. What do you? I think we're in agreement that the Jets are going to finish last, but what are you excited about with this Jets regime? Is there hope for Jets fans?
Yeah, I think so. Like Mike LaFleur's offense, like Zack Wilson a lot. That's what you want out of a quarterback today. In theory, anyways, the off-platform throws, the improvisation, the ability to just see the field and the contours of the field and defenses in unique ways. Had a great conversation with one of his coaches. I think it was Roderick, I want to say. Yes. Go long, and he was just breaking down specific plays where, like, Zack Wilson knew 2-minute drill. If he rolled one direction, their deep 2 look, the one guy cheated a certain direction, and he could just plant on his back foot, throw it 40, 50 yards the opposite direction because that guy would be there, and that safety isn't going to get over there in time. Little stuff like that. Like little details, nuances of the game that are rare. I think that's what it takes in the NFL. So is he just going to lead the Jets to the Super Bowl championship? Absolutely not. They probably win 5, 6, maybe 7 games this year.
Which would be a good season, considering.
Yeah. There's hope, no doubt. And Corey Davis, he's a 1,000-yard receiver. He's starting to look like a top 5 pick at times last year. I believe they added Keelan Cole, Elijah Moore, like you said. So there's some players to work with. It's not what it was the last 2 years where it's not even like an XFL roster half the time.
Tommy, what are your thoughts on Zack Wilson? I'm sure you watched tape on him.
Yeah, well, for Zack Wilson, I was a little bit torn. He is, like, for me, the quintessential player I would gravitate towards when I was younger, like, watching football. He's just exciting to watch. I was like, oh, my gosh, he's kind of like Johnny Manziel making these improvisational, out-athletic throws.
He also looks like a younger kid watching football. He looks like he's 12.
Yeah, his baby face doesn't help him at all. But then there are definitely some throws where I said, hold on. I could count on my one hand the amount of quarterbacks I was able to do the type of throws that he just made, and he's not even in the NFL yet. So I absolutely understand the intrigue, but for me personally, Zack Wilson wasn't within the same stratosphere as the Trevor Lawrence or the Justin Fields. I had them as a clear tier break, and then the other players, like the Mac Joneses, and then the all these other type of players, and that's kind of the category that puts Zack Wilson in. But I know one thing that you said, Brian, is there something to be excited for as a Jets fan? Yes. You don't have to watch Adam Gase's offense anymore. Regardless of who was on that offense, it just didn't look fun at all. And the fact that he's just removed from
Trust me, I know all about that.
That's addition by subtraction right there. And then the fact that for all the great points that Tyler just brought in, not only is Gase not trying to do his arrogant whatever he wanted to do on offense, but now they do have the Corey Davis. Now they do have Elijah Moore, Elijah Vera Tucker trying to hopefully be as dominant as like Becton was this past year. And like they have so many great pieces that you're looking at right now and saying there's hope. There's something that can happen here. Whereas in the years past, at least when Gase was there, you're like, maybe our defense will be good because we already know our offense won't be good, kind of thing. Like already admitting defeat within that same breath. So I'm very excited for how they're going to look right now. But for me, I do have a lot of concerns with Zack Wilson. But once again, I'm just some dude that just watches film. I'm just sitting on my couch. What do I know, right? I don't know the amount of time he's putting in, how smart all these intangibles and things are. All I have is just what's in front of me. But I'm really excited because you always root for the kids. I don't care if you're a fan of them or not. You want them to do well, and I never wish anything poorly. So Zack Wilson has all the tools in his trade, which is why he was taken so early, number 2, right? And there's a reason why he was taken so early, and I'm just excited to kind of see how that turns out.
Yes, but you said you got to cheer for the kids, especially when they look like they're part of the Mickey Mouse Club. Will, why don't you round it out here? Give your thoughts on the Jets to wrap up the AFC East.
So one thing is, I feel like nobody's mentioned Mims, and I feel like a lot of people are sleeping on how good Mims
apparently
could be.
In camp, he's like sliding down the depth chart. I read.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, well, I've heard. I don't know. I mean, he flashed last year. I don't know what kind of camp he's having. I didn't see about that, but I just nobody mentioned him, so we'll see. But I feel like if you were gonna watch, when you watch a movie. Right, and it's got a high school or it's got a college football team in it, and there's like the dorky fat kid who really wants to date the hot chick. The hot chick's boyfriend is definitely Zack Wilson. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Am I wrong? I'm not wrong. So anyway.
Yeah, he's definitely Paul Walker in Varsity Blues, right? At least
he definitely is.
That's exactly who he is.
So. But I mean, I'm with you guys. I'm a big fan of Saleh, right, and that whole regime. I want the Jets to do well, like it's one of those things where and I don't mean it like that. Like I don't have any particular affinity for the Jets, but like, God, they just got gased so bad and they're just like a meme laughing stock. And Jets fans are, they're passionate about that team, right? And like, I don't have any specific reason to hate the Jets. So I mean, I want them.
I'm a Dolphins fan, and I don't hate the Jets anymore. They've just been a laughing stock for so long. I'm just.
That's what I'm saying. It's like how can you hate the Bengals? It's kind of one of those kind of things. So I don't know, man. I'm here for it.
Sad. Just pull up like their all-time passing leaders. It's pretty amazing. I mean, they've been in.
It's pretty amazing.
In the NFL since the AFL days, 1960. It's sad to see like who their all-time passing leaders are. There's not a lot going on.
Well, I think we can all agree that at least there's hope. There's always hope when there's a brand new regime and a brand new quarterback. We'll know in the next few seasons if that hope is warranted, but at least for now, Jets fans, you have something to get excited about, and that's saying something. So let's go ahead and wrap it up. Ty, thanks so much for coming on. We always love having you. Make sure to check out not only his podcast, the Go Long Podcast, where he co-hosts with Jim Monos, but check out Go Long, the NFL newsletter, golongtd.com. I'm a subscriber. I've got other people that I've recommended that have subscribed. Ty knows. You got the Friday happy hours with actual NFL people, players.
Hold up, I don't want to interrupt too much, but these newsletters, guys, you got to read it because there's one thing reading different articles, but the way that Ty is able to put this together, it's like you're hanging out with your best friends and you're reading these articles that just aren't being written by other people because it's not an article, it's conversations. That's what Brian was saying before when we were kind of referencing it. So the reason I like it and the reason why it's so refreshing, you might think this is just another newsletter. This is just, a top 3 in my mailbox kind of thing. No, it's what this is it's honestly an insight. Like, I am not creative enough to think of these awesome questions and generate these type of storylines that Ty is able to put together. So that's why you want to read it. It's unlike anything I've seen before. So, but a quick pitch, I just want to put that out there. They didn't mean to cut you off. It's awesome.
No, Tommy said it all.
Thanks, dude. Man, I appreciate that.
Yep, and we're genuine, and Ty, we will have you on again. So thanks again for coming on the PPP, and make sure to check out his stuff. So quick plug before we wrap it up. We do have our 2 DFS fantasy leagues that we mentioned last season. We're going to run a weekly league as well as a season-long league. Stay tuned for more details. We're still working out the info on that. Don't forget to subscribe, tell your friends, leave us a 5-star review. Check us out on Twitter at officialpppod, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. Go to legitfootball.com and subscribe to your free daily top 5 NFL news stories direct to your inbox. Check out our Discord community with the link in the episode description. Don't forget, we're doing a Saints deep dive, so make sure to stick around for the flavor of the week.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Pigskin Party Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and leave a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. We'll catch you in the next Pigskin Party.